Welcome to episode 5 of Gringo Gone Wild. I'm Rusty Johnson. During this episode, we're going to talk about a couple things on what really life is like on the dark continent of Africa, for not only the natives, but also for the expats, the outsiders per se, that come to Africa to try to make a living. I remembered all of this during a road trip. I sped over the grooves in the road while my tires tapped an even beat like a metronome. The heat intensified throughout the afternoon, and it felt as if I was driving towards the sun. The skin on my arm tightened from hours of direct sun exposure as it hung outside the truck window. Within the middle of nowhere, I encountered people strolling along the edge of the road. They all gave friendly waves, bright smiles as I passed, and then a diamond mine from which they were walking from broke up the dry African landscape. As I approached the mines, the wind blew a cloud of dust over the road, making it difficult to see. The dust was kimberlite, which is the ore from which diamonds are extracted. These mines reminded me of a conversation I had with two gentlemen in South Africa's capital city, Johannesburg, several days prior. It was at an exclusive 4-star Thailand restaurant. Yeah, actually a 4-star Thai restaurant in the middle of Africa. And believe it or not, it's one of the best Thai restaurants I've ever been to. But that's what's unique about South Africa. You know, one afternoon you can be eating ostrich in a fire pit outside a house made of cattle dung and mud. In a few hours' drive, you'll dine in a city with a dress code just as strict as any eatery in New York City's Madison Avenue. The two gentlemen sat at a table next to me during dinner. After striking up a conversation with them, I learned that one man was the son of a black African mine worker, and the other was a white retired South African soldier. Throughout dinner, our small talk evolved into the enlightening education on how life on the dark continent can be challenging for both races. Few realize how diamonds are originally obtained, the miner said it matter-of-factly. It's the diamond workers like my father that sift through kimberlite 12 hours a day, finding the very mineral that creates a billion-dollar industry in the, quote, civilized world. The sadness is that most of the world buys this crystallized carbon in a form of jewelry symbolizing care and compassion towards their loved ones. Most do not comprehend that thousands of miles away, hungry workers toil over 12 hours a day for roughly $20 a week in pay. Many mines have been accused of imprisoning workers until they fill their quota for the week, and I've heard rumors about enslaving children for free labor. As I drove past the mine, I saw that they were surrounded with razor wire sealing off forbidden zones. I've been warned never to stop my car near a mine and take any photographs of the facilities. Undoubtedly, the very road I was driving on is viewed by many of their surveillance cameras. I once asked a South African government official, could an unemployed African begin his own enterprise mining diamonds? The answer was no. Why? I asked. It is believed that it would cause illicit diamond buying. In South Africa, there is a law prohibiting illicit diamond buying, or IDB. Any rough diamond found on public land must be sold to the government, who then resells it to a consolidated mining company, which has the exclusive buying rights for the entire country. Many Africans I've spoken to are amazed to learn that diamonds are openly traded on the streets in New York City. That activity would guarantee imprisonment in South Africa. With a visual tag team slap of hands, he turned the conversation over to his friend by smiling and saying to him, "But we all have our crosses to bear, don't we?" The retired officer smiled back and said, "Yes, we do. Yes, we do." "Do you have a depressing story?" I asked the officer as he wiped his mouth clean with the table napkin. He said, "My negative experiences in Africa have been more matter of bad timing," he said as he squinted one eye and aimed his cigarette over a struck match. After inhaling a thick cloud of gray smoke, he said, "I retired from the military and purchased a farm in Kenya. I farmed sisal, which is a natural fiber for burlap or hemp. I successfully farmed over 500 acres for 3 years, until the day the minister of the office of the president called on black Kenyans to follow the lead taken by landless Zimbabweans and occupy white-owned farms. That night was the worst night of my life. 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke to screams and machine gun fire. A mob was yelling my name while spraying machine gun bullets through my front door. They came to kill me and take over the farm. As he beat down my door, I heard my servant, who was from the same tribe as the mob, get shot to death trying to protect me. Many of the men were calling me by name and screaming for me to come out. Several of the men used to work for me, so they knew where I slept. Bullets shot through the floor while several men began charging up the steps. They had flashlights taped to the barrels of their guns. To this day, I can close my eyes and see the beam of their lights bouncing off my walls as they cut through the gunpowder smoke. I barricaded my room door with a dresser and then grabbed the machine gun I kept under my bed. I backed myself into a corner and rolled a huge steel safe in front of me. I grabbed the phone next to me and called the local police. I told them what was happening, and they said, "We are sorry, but we don't have any cars on duty this shift. But if you come and pick us up, we will be glad to assist you." Can you believe that? Unbelievable. He then said I slammed the phone down on the floor and the mob began beating on my door, screaming for me to open it. I rested the gun barrel on the safe and took chest-level aim at the door. Just as they broke in, I fired on them with over 100 rounds. Every man at that door fell upon each other in a twisted pile, never to terrorize again. The rest of the men on the ground floor heard my retaliating gunfire and fled into the night like a band of shadowy demons. I knew they would return, so I grabbed everything I could fit in my truck and I fled under the cover of darkness to South Africa. Later that weekend, I learned through the Kenya Newswire that the mob returned an hour later and burned my house down, thinking I was still in it. Then they set fire to all 500 acres of my crops. I never quite understood why they burned everything down. They cut off their nose to spite their face. Now they have control of a farm with no house and no crops. I heard it was literally turned into 500 acres of barren dirt. They will probably turn it into another slum, and they'll be in the same exact position they were in when they started. Better yet, the mob made such an inferno of my house that the fire consumed all the dead bodies inside. The jackasses are convinced they killed me, and I sleep well keeping it that way. But I would never accuse them of being intelligent. This was an incredible conversation between both of them. It wasn't just a matter of color, it was a matter of situation. And it was really something that did stick with me and really went through my mind as I sped through the mines and watched the kimberlite dust swirl in my rearview mirror like a gang of midget tornadoes. Then I realized that when it comes to violence and disregard for life, humans are not prejudiced. Thank you for listening to episode 5 of Gringo Gone Wild. And please visit gringogonewild.com and subscribe so I can give you a heads up when the new episodes are coming out. I hope you had a great time and stay tuned. And remember, in the end, all we have is our stories.